All right, and we're live.
All right. What's Hotep? Peace, greetings to all those who have joined us this morning. My name is Baba Aundar. I'm the co-founder of Melaneyes Media, and I'd like to welcome you again to our Tuesday morning Black conversation. And this is an opportunity for us to come together as a family, as a community, to have conversations about various topics that are impacting the lives of Black people. And of course, this morning, we're looking forward to a conversation that we kind of built on a couple of weeks ago, but we wanted to come back and kind of redo and kind of look at some additional things. So with that said, again, thank you for joining us. Look forward to you adding to the dialogue and conversation. And I'm going to pass it over to my brother, my friend, business partner, brother Born Logic. Hotep, my brother.
Indeed. Peace, Baba Aundar. Peace and greetings, family. Thank you all for joining us for this Tuesday conversation. Once again, Melaneyes Media. This is a series. And so if you would like to go back and review some of the previous episodes of these conversations, they are available on our YouTube channel. We would also encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, really just striving to build content to help not only engage our audience, but pull people back into our cycle of learning. And our primary means by which we do that is our Sunday Black History presentations. So with that being said, today's conversation, we're going to focus on the topic of unity. What does it mean? How can we achieve it? And what does it look like? So first off, I would like to at least just give a definition of what I think unity is. Unity is when we can come together on one accord, in agreement, and move in unison or together. When you think about the word unity, Baba Aundar, what comes to mind?
You know, this idea of unity is something that we all are kind of have spoken of, talked about, and kind of agreed upon that we definitely need and want unity. And the idea of what unity is, of course, I appreciate you defining unity in the sense that we're coming together as one to achieve or accomplish a goal and fulfill a purpose as a collective, you know. But the idea of unity is a concept that has definitely been talked about for many years. You know, when I think about just the idea that, you know, when you look at someone like Kwame Nkrumah, who talked about Africans must unite, and really tried to build the idea that the African countries could unite and create the United States of Africa. Or if you talk about someone, of course, Malcolm Martin, and various people have talked about then this idea of unity and how it could be utilized to help us to be more powerful as a people. I think the struggle for me, brother, and I think the struggle for us as a people is to identify the practice of unity. What does it look like? Because as we know, unity is not uniformity, meaning that we all gonna dress alike, look alike, walk alike, and talk alike. But we're all gonna do those things, but we're gonna do it in our individual ways, but it's gonna be for the good of the collective. So I think the idea is a powerful idea. And now we have to really put our fingers on how does it look in practice.
Indeed. You know, when you were talking, one thing that came to mind, the base word of unity is uni, which means one.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important because from a collective, we had to find a way to coalesce as one. And I think one of the things that needs to be understood is that when you're talking about unity, you probably really need to start with one thing. A lot of times, you know, we may have different ideas and ideals and things we want to get accomplished. However, in the start, you probably just want to have one unifying factor, one idea, maybe one goal, see how it goes from there, and then revisit the union again. So with that being said, I'm just going to share something that as I was looking at the definition again, It says to unite it, to come together as one. And it also mentioned harmony. And when I think of harmony, I always think about singing. I always think about a choir. Doesn't mean everybody's on the exact same note or pardon me, singing in the same exact range. However, we're hitting the same notes and it's together. And so when I think about that harmony aspect of it, it helps me better understand it, and it helps me better to put it in perspective. It don't mean everybody, like you said, don't mean everyone necessarily has to be dressed alike, doesn't necessarily mean everybody has to be doing the exact same thing. However, we have to be pushing towards a common goal.
Yeah.
Go ahead, bro.
And I think that's important, because the unity that we seek and desire is definitely going to be built around the idea of harmony and working for the same goal. You know, one of the things that I have learned through the years, and that is it's a challenge, of course, to build this concept and practice of unity. But one of the things that definitely help is to be in harmony. Of course, one of the things I've learned is being in harmony with self, you know, unifying of mind, body, and spirit with self, and being in peace with self. Because one of the things I've seen over the years, if I'm at peace with me, then chances are I can build harmony and peace with others. And I think this is an idea that we're going to have to look at, you know, because, you know, as we come into the season of Kwanzaa and we talk about the principle of Umoja, unity, one of the things that we should definitely investigate is that how do we develop that unity within? Because I think that the struggle that we have sometime in creating the unity that we desire is that we have not found the harmony and peace within ourselves. So if we bring to the table disharmony and disunity within, meaning that that's a kind of African proverb that says that, you know, when one thinks and speaks and acts in accord, then that person truly has authority, meaning that everything that person says, that's what you see that person will do. So that means that person has unity within. But what if we're not? You know, if we're saying one thing and doing another, and I'm just talking about us as individuals, then are we reflecting the unity that we desire? And of course, if we're doing that, then when people see us, how do people unify with us? Do they unify based on what we're saying, or are they going to unify based on what we're doing? And if it's two different things, it creates disunity, in many ways, disharmony. So one of the things I think in the struggle for us to have this unity is to create the harmony within, so then we can start shaping the harmony without, meaning with each other.
I think something that well, I ask you this. I think a lot of people assume, or some people say, Black people don't come together. Black people can't stick together. Do you agree with that?
I don't necessarily, because I think we have enough examples of us coming together. I think the struggle sometimes is us coming together for long-term vision and purpose. Like, I mean, when you think of some of the major events that have taken place, of course, it may be more symbolism than actual unity. But when you think of the 1963 March on Washington, or you think of the Million Man March or the Million Woman March, this was strong examples of unity, of us coming together. And of course, we know it had to be a lot of unity and collective work before that took place. But the idea, I think we have a tendency to come together for a moment. It's just like we started marching together, you know, to protest the murder of George Floyd. But now, where are we collectively? How are we coming together? Are we still coming together? It doesn't appear that way. So I think as a people, we have moments where we come together and we see the force in our unity, but it's short-lived. And the thing I think that's missing is that we don't have, I think, a long-term vision and purpose that requires us to come together consistently, you know, in a vision and something that will bring about a greater, better world for us as a people. So I think that's maybe the missing piece in that will bring us the unity that we desire.
You know, as you were speaking, go ahead, bro.
Now I was going to ask, how about yourself though on that? Just because I thought that was a really good question.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think we can come together, and I think we have plenty of examples to show it and to prove it. Our history shows us that even our present day's circumstances and conditions sometimes show that. I think what's usually necessary, and let me say this, I think that Black people have a desire to come together. I think we come together. I think we work together well. However, I think that a lot of times there's sometimes an added and extra pressure to be more homogenous than other groups may receive. I think sometimes I don't think we ask the Asian community if they're willing to come together, if they can stick together. I don't think we look at other communities in the same way that we look at ourselves. And I think that comes from how society looks at us. Sometimes we adopt or adapt to that vision and mentality. And we just kind of put everybody in a bucket. And that's not always the case because we have different thoughts and ideas and experiences. Okay. However, I do think that as a whole, we tend to come together. And one thing that I'm going to use as an example, because we've done extensive research on our spending habits. And when you look at Black spending habits, we tend to do similar things with our income and resources and pool them in certain areas that are distinct to us as a group. And I do think that we tend to move in the same path a lot of times. It may not always be for our benefit, I will say that. We definitely tend to listen to one another. We tend to respect one another because one of the things those studies show from Nielsen report is that we influence one another. If we say that this is a place that's beneficial to shop at, we all, or a significant amount of Black people tend to shop in those areas when they see other Black people mention or say that this is a place to go or this is the route that should be taken. We tend to listen to one another. I think one of the problems sometimes is that we don't always have the best reasons for coming together. And I know when we previously discussed this, we talked about a lot of times we come together for defense as opposed to offense. So we come together when we feel that there's a threat against us as a whole or as a unit, and not necessarily proactively. And with that being said, I think that, you know, we could definitely improve in our proactivity of unifying, coming together, not just in a crisis, but like you said, for long-term goals and ideals, and things that can benefit us in the long run.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that I think it was Kwame Ture, of course, known as Stokely Carmichael, he had said something I thought was very powerful when it came to the idea of unity. He was saying basically that there can be no unity. Before unity, we must be organized. And basically saying that we as a people should be in an organization. And at some point, all the organizations will come together for a common purpose. And I'm talking about us as Black people. But when I thought about that and really looked at the idea of being an organization, because, you know, one thing about organizations, they normally have goals, they have a purpose, they have principles in which they are built upon, they have a structure in which people fit into. So it gives people a chance to be an organization, but also it gives us a chance to build on the idea of unity. Because if the organization is to be constructive and reach its goals, it has to work to a degree in unity. The collective, everyone does not have the same position, doing the same job, but ultimately they are working for the same cause, and that is to move the organization forward. You know, so I think the idea is that we have to be able to formulate a way in which we can practice being in unity. And maybe that is through being an organization, because then we can really kind of get a feel for what it feels like working together as a collective to reach a goal, to bring forth a vision.
Indeed. You know, one thing that I think that you mentioned that's really important, and going back to what Kwame Ture said, organizations also having smaller units within the whole.
Mm.
So if you think about it, when you talked about the United States of Africa, even we talk about the United Nations, there are groups of nations that first organize and come together and unify amongst themselves, and then they come to a larger collection and then unify maybe with representatives. And I think that's something that we have to also be considering, is that we should be practicing with smaller groups. You know, the first unification honestly can be in the household.
Yes.
You know, just starting at home, having a goal or something that you can practice and get. Because one of the things about being in an organization, it made me think about Message to the People. We made you get to practice being in unity with other Black people. But also you start to learn, because one of the biggest things about a collective is that you have to learn to sacrifice individual preferences for overall principles. And that is a difficult thing in this individualistic society that we live in, this hyper me society. And also the microwave society that we want to see results really quick, and sometimes that doesn't happen. And we have to be willing to put aside our personal preferences sometimes for the overall principles. And I think if we can do that in smaller groups, a handful, then we can start to work in larger groups, and then even larger groups, and then we can come together as smaller units to create core unification type groups and things of that nature. So that's one thing that I think is important and key. And we just also have to really get out of ourselves, get out of our own way, get out of this individualistic, is it going to benefit me? Because sometimes we may not see an individual benefit, at least right away. And that's sometimes difficult for people, but it is something that's very, very necessary.
No doubt. No doubt. Yeah. But, as you was talking, it just made me think of when you talked about the idea of starting with a smaller unit just in the household with the family is really the foundation of, the first level of unity. And normally that is the case. The family is an organized construct that's working in unity for the benefit of all in the household. And I think, then I thought about, we're again coming into the season of Kwanzaa. We're coming into the season of Kwanzaa, and imagine if there are 30 million people, African descent, celebrating Kwanzaa throughout the world. That is a major opportunity for us to, of course, be in unity. Imagine December the 26th, we're all sitting at some point during that day, thinking, reflecting on the principle of unity and having conversations about unity, coming together to, do a similar ritual. Now, extend that out 7 days and extend that out 7 months or 1 year, and then extend that out, that become an everyday practice. Basically saying that I think, going back initially, what we had also said is that we have examples of unity. It's just building on sustaining that practice of unity. And I think the principles, the practice and the celebration of Kwanzaa gives us that opportunity. And I think it really starts in the core with the family, which is normally the main celebration group that we are in contact with, is that we have people within our household that we come together with around the principles. So it just made me reflect, brother. I think we have truly examples of unity, and I think we're going to have to raise those up more often, because I think quite often we are so misdirected towards the examples of disunity or disharmony, and we talk about it so much, is that it becomes the driving thought and conversation, is that we not in unity, we're divided, we disharmony, and we cannot deny it's a struggle, but we also have to equally give time and attention to those things that we are doing that definitely reflect unity within the Black community.
I definitely agree with that, because I think that a lot of times we just give ourselves a bad rap. And once again, this goes back to, we tend to adopt and adapt to the views of society about us. Yes. And I don't even think we realize we do this. I rarely see other ethnic, I'm gonna use the term, I don't like the term race, but racial groups going through some of the things that, the criticisms that we do. You don't hear, it's not even a conversation. It doesn't even sound, you never hear terms like white on white crime, or you don't hear people criticizing the spending habits of the white community. It's not even a thing. Even the Asian community, or the, or the East Asian, or what have you, you just don't necessarily even hear these criticisms, because we tend to, once again, adopt and adapt the critical eye, the same critical eye that society uses to view us through.
Yes.
And I also think that sometimes we forget all that we've come through and that we've been through in order for us to get to the point that we're even at today. We've come a long way. It's a lot of obstacles and pitfalls that are purposely set in our path. There's a lot of control of media, narration, history that makes us view our situation the way that we do. And I think we have great examples of coming together. It definitely could be improvement. However, at the end of the day, I think we have to also realize that, because when we talk about the great examples, you talked about the Million Man March. We know that there's 13 million Black people in the US. 1 million, even if we reach that number, that's only a small portion in our reality. But it's the appearance sometimes, because that motivates others. And also, it doesn't mean that everybody has to be in that space marching on foot to support it. There's other things that can be done in support of a movement. When we look at the marching and things that took place in the 60s during the Civil Rights Movement, it wasn't a majority of Black Americans that were out in the streets getting hosed down and bit by dogs. That was a small fragment of our population. But you have to understand that that is a motivating example, and it's a factor that's necessary for us to see. And it's other people, it's other means by which to support those things. It's other ways to play a part. It's other ways to contribute. And so I think that that's also something that we have to realize. I see we have a comment here in the chat, and I was going to read this real quick. Let's take, for instance, TV shows like Real Housewives of Atlanta, Real Housewives of Potomac, and Love and Hip Hop. So much putting down hatred and fighting. The people that watch this are on the same level. People fight on message boards and like to see other Black people fighting. When something positive is put on, especially about Black women, people say that they don't want to watch it. They would rather watch ratchet behavior. This is really sad. We should get together in positive ways for protests. We should, in positive ways, we shouldn't get together in positive ways just for protests. We should be united, period. Indeed. But once again, that really depends. I mean, what does that look like? What does that mean when we say we should get united? That's why I think we have to be clear in our definitions, clear in our goals, and realistic in our expectations.
Yeah, because, and it raises a question I ask you, my brother, is that what would the world look like for us as a people if we really had this idea and practice of unity as a people, what would be some of the benefits or outcome of this? Saying ultimately, our unity has to show something that that we can construct or build upon, or that we're building on, or that we develop, or that we bring into existence. But maybe, just in your own thinking, what would be something that would be reflective of our unity?
Indeed. It's a few examples that come to mind. I always think about the ideas and ideals of like history, society, that we can agree that there are pitfalls put in place that white supremacy is striving to derail us. Mm-hmm. I realize we can't even all agree on that sometimes. I often think, I know you and I speak about the push for reparations should and could be something that we could say, hey, we all know that there has been damage has been done to our community. Those who have perpetrated it systemically should help to repair those wrongs, financially, spiritually, mentally, and things of that nature. However, I realize that some people don't even agree on that concept either. However, for myself, I would definitely like to see us acknowledge our history and what has happened to us and what has happened through us, so that we can properly heal, because I think that healing would resolve a lot of issues. If we could agree and understand that, hey, it's just like childhood. They talk about childhood trauma in your adulthood. And if you can recognize and resolve some of those childhood traumas early in life, then you can start to be a positive, productive, mentally strong and healthy adult.
Yeah.
And I think the same thing goes for our infancy here in this nation. If we can understand that we had very traumatic things happen to us, and these things have been perpetrated against us and they affect us, if we can start to at least recognize those ills, we can do something to heal from that. And if we can mentally heal from a lot of those things, then I think it's smooth sailing moving forward. Mm-hmm. How about yourself? What are some points of things you think?
One of the things, and I think you just opened it up, and that was the idea of the history, our history as a people. I think if there was one thing that we could organize and build our unity around, is our history. And I'm saying that, like we've been doing the Sunday night Black history. Well, it don't have to be just us, and it don't have to just be on Sunday night, but we all, I think, would agree that we should take time as a people, sometime during the week, if not every day, that we should study our history. And imagine now studying our history, imagine Black people all over the world, let's start with America. In America, taking one night out of the week that we sit down as a family and study 2 hours just looking at our history or some aspect of our history. And that become a practice. Imagine how, and you just mentioned how that would, in a way, heal us and reshape our thinking, just to come into the knowledge of ourselves through a consistent practice of being in unity, of doing something that is unifying. And then, I know you do homeschooling, but imagine us taking more positive, constructive actions when it comes to the education of our children. If it's not in the public schools, but at least maybe on the weekends, on Saturday, we have a program nationwide that is Black people, 3 hours out of a Saturday. We want our children to come together to learn their history and just help them in general to be more academically minded, in the sense of developing their minds. But I'm saying it would take a collective effort to do that. It would take a unified effort. But I think surely we would see some definitely positive benefits of that, because our children and us as a people will become more knowledgeable of ourselves. And we would start to see that, I think, in our behavior. But it would have to be a unified effort, basically.
You know what, brother? When you said that, it's so interesting that there's so many examples of those things. Mm-hmm. And one of the first things I always think about, well, why is that not here today? Wow. And two things came to mind. I think one of the things that kind of hinder and hamper that growing process and that continuation from generation to generation is a lack of interest of a generation after to carry the torch of the generation before them in certain realms, and money. Because we'll sell some things out. Because I think about, because when you were speaking about that, I was like, yeah, it'd be nice. We had a media outlet, a channel, something like that. And we have had those things, and we're doing great things with them. And then sometimes they get sold, and we will sell something quick. And I think that, and that just keeps coming up in my mind lately. Like, we have to sometimes be willing to sacrifice not only our time and our personal preferences, but $1 or $2. We got to really fall back from taking money for everything. Everything don't have a price tag on it. Some things are so valuable that it's not worth selling. And we really got to start thinking more like that.
Now, that's powerful. You just said some things are more valuable. It's not, you can't put a price tag on some things, brother. You know. But I guess
Jay-Z said a line, this, I think it was either this year or last year, that people highlight. He said something to the effect that people know the price of everything and the value of nothing.
Wow.
That hit so hard, that hit home so hard for me. And I agree with that. People know the price of everything out here and don't know the value of anything.
All right. Well, let's see something I'm thinking.
Oh, the comments here.
Okay.
Exactly. I have learned so much from you both. Adults and parents have taught themselves and their children things from your presentations. I really wish that there was something like this when I was in school. Excellent. We appreciate that. We really, really do.
Yeah. Brother, this is an ongoing conversation because our struggle to build the unity that we desire is ongoing. But I do think just in our brief conversation this morning, hopefully we have contributed something. And I believe we have, brother, because if nothing else, we have opened up a door for us to continue to have this dialogue. And hopefully we have shared something. I think we have shared some things that we definitely need to look at and building our unity and how maybe that unity can look in some ways. So this has been great, brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Absolutely. And once again, family, we thank you all for joining us on these Tuesday conversations. Please like and share this video, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit us at our home site, melanizemedia.com. We hope that you all have a positive and productive rest of your day. Peace.
Peace and blessings, family.
Thank you. Have a good day.
And do you as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.